The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, this is Jennifer Shout coming to you live from Washington, D.C., and welcome to our Government Contracting Webinar Series. This is the final week, week number 10, and all of the webinars that we've done over the last few weeks and few years can be found on our website under the webinar section. We actually have a double header tomorrow talking about sole source contracts, but today we're talking about the GSA Schedule Proposal, Part 3, which is the pricing section. Before we jump into that, I'll give you a little bit of background about my organization and myself. We are based in downtown DC and provide various services for both product and service companies. Services range from 8A certification to contract compliance, capability statements, GSA schedules, market analysis reports, training, and more. We do host networking events and seminars throughout the year. You can find those on our website under the events section, or you can sign up for our website or our newsletter, which will keep you abreast of all of those events. My background is listed on this slide. I've got over 20 years of experience in federal contracting with large firms as well as small service companies and product companies. So today we're going to talk about the GSA schedule pricing section. Before we get into that, I just want to remind everybody the GSA schedule is only a marketing tool. It's not required to sell to the government, and it's just one of many, many ways that the government can purchase from you. The GSA schedule is used only about 10 to 15% of the time in government purchases. Many agencies have their own contract vehicles, and as I mentioned, there are other ways the government purchases. Initially, if you get onto the schedule, it's a 5-year contract with 3 5-year renewable periods. So in essence, from start to finish, it becomes a 20-year contract. It's also considered a multiple award schedule, or MAS, multiple award, meaning that there are multiple companies that are awarded the schedule. Approximately 18 to 20,000 companies currently hold the GSA schedule. You'll sometimes hear the term FSS, Federal Supply Schedule, another way of categorizing GSA schedules. But the main focus of the schedule is your pricing. So GSA will seek to secure equal to or better than your most favored customer or your lowest prices. Some of the benefits: it's going to make it easier for the government to purchase from you. It shows that you're serious and that you've kind of been through this GSA schedule check. Limited competition: sure, there's 18 to 20,000 companies on the schedule, but within each of the special item numbers, the numbers get a little bit smaller based on what it is you're providing. So you'll have dedicated and special RFP and RFQ notifications that will come to you that nobody else will actually be able to see except the other companies that have that same special item number. When we talk to companies that are considering getting a schedule, we want to make sure that they exceed both the pre and post award requirements, making sure that they've got customers, at least $25,000 worth of customers that are going to purchase that much through their schedule. Again, the schedule is one of many ways that the government purchases. You also want to make sure that you're going to be profitable once you're on the schedule. You certainly don't want to go through this process to end up in price negotiations with GSA only to find that you're barely breaking even. With lower margins, obviously you need heavy volume. Heavy volume is just going to take you back to how many of your customers are actually purchasing through the schedule. Here's some of the other mechanisms and ways that the government purchases: set-aside contracts, full and open competition, which you're going to see those RFPs and notifications on FedBizOps, simplified acquisition, that's going to be procurements for small businesses at certain dollar thresholds and based on the number of competitors or companies that the government can purchase. This was just a snapshot of a market research report that we had conducted for a company, letting them know that the schedule was really used a minimal amount of time. Even though it was still only 5.5%, it still turned into millions of dollars, and the company still wanted to pursue the schedule. Okay, so let's talk about the pricing section of the GSA schedule proposal. So GSA is has two main goals. First, they want to obtain your lowest prices. How they do that, you will complete the CSP, which is the Commercial Sales Practices Form, and you'll open the kimono and share with GSA which of your customers, whether it's a category, meaning all universities, all nonprofits, all state and local governments, or a specific customer, ABC company, that gets your lowest prices. Secondly, they want to ensure that your rates, whether these are hourly or rates for your products, are competitive with others on the schedule. For those that are selling services, meaning labor categories, job titles with hourly rates associated with them, it would be in your best interest to go to the calc site that's listed there, calc.gsa.gov, to ensure that your rates that you're proposing to GSA are in line with others on the schedule, with all things being equal, meaning same level of education, number of years experience, and job description. That site is very useful, and GSA will look at that to conduct analysis. So if you've got a project manager proposed to GSA at $100 per hour, but all the other project managers that show up on the calc site are at $85, GSA is most likely going to want your rates to be down in that $85 range. Otherwise, they don't really see a need to put you on the schedule when they can buy these project manager services at a lower rate. Again, that's all things being equal with level of education, minimum years experience, job description, and more. So your GSA rates are really only a price ceiling or a not to exceed rate, meaning that let's use the example we just talked about. Let's say you come in at your negotiated and approved GSA rate becomes $85 for your program manager. As you start bidding for work through your schedule, you may start bidding at $84, $83.75. So keep in mind, again, your rates are simply a price ceiling. Again, smaller margins, heavier volume is certainly needed to be profitable and have the schedule be an asset for your firm. So as I just mentioned, you will bid lower than your GSA rates. Keep that in mind. And this language is taken from the CSP, which is that first litmus test that GSA will conduct. And you will check a box for yes or no, indicating that the discounts that you're offering GSA are equal to or better than your best price, regardless of quantity or terms and conditions. You can certainly check no there and put some language in there if you so desire to gamble. But most of the time, again, the whole focus and the impetus of the schedule is based on your pricing. So the actual section, the pricing section of the proposal contains a variety of components. You should have a narrative in this section. The next piece will be your commercial price list or market prices or market rates, depending upon how your pricing is structured. The EPA is the economic price adjustment. So if you're using a commercial price list, there is a specific EPA that you'll use. If you're using market prices, there's another economic EPA that you'll use. You can tell by looking at companies that are already on the schedule what they are using. If the EPA is based on market prices, then the EPA is tied to Department of Labor's Table 5, which those rate increases on your schedule will be dictated by Department of Labor. So you'll see companies that have 5-year pricing listed for their services. For commercial prices, you'll just see a snapshot of their 12-month GSA rates. The next part there is the price proposal. Your rates should be shown, should be fully burdened and loaded, all the fringe, overhead, and everything else that goes into your rates. Here you will indicate the labor categories, the commercial rate, your most favored customer rate, your proposed discounts to GSA, and you'll have 2 columns there. One will be your GSA rate with the IFFC, meaning the fee that you're going to pay GSA each quarter based on your GSA sales, and then the GSA rate without the IFF. Your GSA customers will be purchasing from you with the IFF rate built in. Next, you'll want to include invoice justification, so showing that you have sold these products or services in the past. Your invoices should be your commercial invoices. If you are selling products, you probably want to include some literature here, description of the products. For the labor categories, you will list in a spreadsheet the job title, the minimum years of experience, minimum years of education, and a job description of the responsibilities for that labor category. Sometimes GSA will do this, sometimes they will push it back to you. Sometimes it depends on the schedule, sometimes it depends on the contracting officer, or a combination of all of those things. But again, make sure that you go to that calc site for those that are providing services, and go to gsaadvantage.gov for those companies that are providing products. There is something new called TDR, Transactional Data Reporting, which will allow GSA and the vendors to do more of this price analysis. But this is something I highly encourage you to do before, before is in all caps, red and underlined, before you decide to pursue the GSA schedule. If you're selling any software, you want to have your end user license agreement included. The GSA attorneys will basically redline that and send it back to you with their edits. The CSP, which is the document we talked about earlier, disclosing your commercial sales practices. Some schedules also require a chart which will indicate which categories of your customers are bringing in the bulk of your business revenue. If you're pursuing Schedule 70, you'll include the approved price list. For those that are selling services, SCA, if it is applicable to your company and the labor categories. That's the Service Contract Act. Again, you can go to the Department of Labor Table 5 to find that information. For companies that are selling products, you want to make sure that they are Trade Agreement Act compliant. You'll have to complete a document that indicates that all of your products are TA compliant, and what you're going to do to monitor that on a regular basis. Regular, I would say monthly. This means that your products are not being manufactured in China, North Korea, and other countries, Argentina, that are on that list. That list can sometimes change, so again, you want to make sure that you're monitoring that on a regular basis, and that should be included in your narrative. Also for products, Ability One, similar methodology here as far as monitoring to make sure that Ability One is not, that they are not making the same products as you. If they are, then you cannot list those products on the schedule. And then if you are not the manufacturer, if you're a dealer or a distributor, you'll need a letter of supply, which comes from the manufacturer, indicating that they are in agreement and that everything is compliant with TAA and Ability One, and that they will be providing your company unlimited distribution of those products. That needs to be signed by an executive, not a sales rep from the manufacturer, but somebody at the C level. And those documents you can find on the GSA website. Estimated time for completing the pricing section, anywhere from a week to a month, depending on the size of your business, how many hands are involved in the process, and how readily and easily accessible all of these documents are. If you are selling products, those documents that I just talked about, the letter of supply, you probably want to make sure in advance that the manufacturer is willing to sign that document without changing any verbiage. If not, that will be a deal breaker for you. Estimated cost here, there are no certificates or anything that you need to purchase for this particular section, simply your time. And best practices, again, make sure that your products and or services are competitive with others on the schedule. If not, there's really no need to go down the path of pursuing the schedule. Some common errors that we see from companies that come to us that have been rejected. They've got pricing formula errors. GSA would like to see their prices with a specific formula in there. Other companies end up just not being competitive, and they don't want to negotiate with GSA because they're not willing to drop their rates to be competitive with others on the schedule. For your invoice justification, depending upon what your invoices look like, you may need some backup and supporting documentation. This could be a crosswalk spreadsheet saying that Susie Q is a program manager and her rate is $100 per hour. And maybe your invoice simply just states program management services, 6-month agreement, $100,000 each month. So your backup information will need to make sure that you include the appropriate job titles used for that particular contract. The job titles that you're using need to have hourly rates times the number of hours to come up with that same number that's on the general invoice. And that's it for the pricing section. If you have specific questions about that section, or if you need help with your GSA schedule proposal, you want to ensure that you are compliant before you send the proposal off to GSA. We're happy to help and take a look, and contact us at the phone number listed here. Go to our website, send an email, or anything else. Tomorrow we are covering sole source contracts and the advantages within sole source contract for 8A, women-owned, hub-zone, and veteran-owned companies. That'll be a double header at 12 o'clock. We cover 8A. At 12:30, we will cover the women-owned, veteran-owned, hub-zone set-aside sole source. Thanks again for joining us, and this session is being recorded.